were often blamed for acts of terror which were not our fault. And in fact, being the biggest victims of terrorism, there was a propaganda against Pakistan, blaming us for terrorism. You can't be a victim and an aggressor at the same time. It's an oxymoron. It's an inherent contradiction. It's just not possible. So no other country has to its credit 90,000 lives laid down in the war against terrorism. Nobody claimed that. No other country can claim that they've lost hundreds of billions of dollars in economic losses. And then we are also a shield, a wall between the terrorists and the rest of the world. So when one Pakistani lays down his or her life, yes, it's for the motherland, yes, it's for Pakistan, but it's also to make the world a safer place. It cannot be that so many sacrifices go in vain. It's just not possible. So I think the time was right that the world heard our story and the world heard it right. And by offering this investigation just before the war, I think we had a point to prove that our hands were clean. And that point was well taken. And that turning point strengthened our friends, strengthened our alliances, and countries who were on the fence, it made them realize what Pakistan stands for. And by offering this investigation, Pakistan made a good diplomatic move, which was well received the world over. And I think after that, there was immense diplomatic engagement at the level of the Prime Minister, at the level of the Field Marshal, at the level of the Deputy Prime Minister. And I think that constant engagement really helped us prove our point to the world. So when I say that the world was changing, but Pakistan also changed, we saw an aggressive diplomatic change. Our diplomacy worked very well because we were taking diplomacy very seriously. We were taking relations with all countries very seriously. There was no laxity and there was no room for any complacency, and we were right on the job. Even with regard to the narrative, I can tell you as the Chief Marketing Officer of Pakistan Incorporated, so to speak, in corporate parlance, that it was my job to put the narrative out there, and I think we did all we could on international media outlets everywhere. We had the strength of the truth. So when we told the story and we told it right, the world heard it and it had an impact. So the right kind of diplomacy, aggressive diplomacy, coupled with the right kind of marketing campaign, with the right kind of information to counter misinformation and disinformation. So we were everywhere, all across. And I must also appreciate the synergy that we had with the DGISPR in putting out the correct information. It wouldn't have been possible without this ideal synergy which we created. So on the narrative front, we were winning, alhamdulillah. On the diplomatic front, we were winning. And when it actually came down to the brass tacks, by the Almighty's blessings, we had already shot down 7 planes. And when we were confronted with brute force, we gave them a bloody nose. And that response, a befitting response, actually proved our military might. So the narrative war was won, the diplomatic war was won, and when it came down to the actual war, Pakistan passed with flying colors. And within 4 hours, India was compelled to request for a ceasefire. So when I say Pakistan is changing, Pakistan actually changed. And I must acknowledge the kind of unity that we displayed as a nation. The resilience of our people. The people of Pakistan came together, forgot our differences. And I remember speaking on the floor of the House and saying that, today there is no political point scoring. We're all on the same page. And we will fight the enemy together as a unified force. And that's exactly, alhamdulillah, what we did. And I used to say that, we grew up with a certain sense of patriotism. We had heard from our elders how Pakistan was made, and we used to celebrate 14th August by putting up small flags and lighting up candles. But regarding the Gen Z, the jury was still out. And when I say Pakistan has changed, when it came down to the meme war, and the enemy was stunned that our youngsters on social media had actually come up with memes in a very serious situation. And the enemy was wondering what is going on. War is a very serious matter, and they were making memes and they were ridiculing the enemy in their own particular way. So even our Gen Z, our younger generation, they played a role with regard to social media. And they took it upon themselves to fight for Pakistan on that platform, on that battlefield. Because I often say that, the digital world is divided into two kinds of people. You have digital natives and digital immigrants. And sometimes the immigrants, they take time to comprehend the ground realities of digital media. But people who are born into the digital age, and they are digital natives, they understand that world much better than most of us do. So I think the digital natives had their own war strategy and had their own way of winning that war. So I think it was total synergy, total cohesion that really helped us. And even now, if you see the way forward, Pakistan has become extremely relevant. When it comes to the situation in Gaza, when it comes to the ceasefire, we are included in the list of Arab Islamic countries who brokered that peace and were part of the negotiations which led to an eventual ceasefire. And I think that's a big win for Pakistan, where the countries of the world have taken us extremely seriously and believe that the things that we have to say, the advice that we have to give is extremely relevant and very, very important. And you've seen that we have had a lot of visits this year. And people often talk about foreign visits and the dignitaries coming to Pakistan. I think the diplomatic engagement in the past year and a half has been at its peak. We hosted the SCO Summit, Heads of Government Summit, after 14 years. We had 12 Prime Ministers coming to Pakistan, coming to Islamabad, and talking about strategic ties, talking about regional cooperation, talking about counter-terrorism, talking about regional connectivity. So we had all these things going on in succession. And even now, the way the world has engaged Pakistan, we're going to host the SCO Heads of State Summit in 2027, which is going to be a big event, inshallah. And excuse me. And with regard to improvement of ties with other partners in the region, we saw the Strategic Mutual Defense Agreement taking place with Saudi Arabia, which was, I think, one of the best things to happen to Pakistan in recent history. And the people have taken great pride in that agreement, where the common man has actually gotten involved. And we were in Riyadh, and we saw the Pakistani flag flying high for almost 25 kilometers constantly. There were Pakistani flags all around, and people of Saudi Arabia celebrated this union with the people of Pakistan. And then in the last visit, the launching of the Economic Cooperation Framework, I think that launch with regard to revival of Pakistan's economy has really, really cemented our ties with Saudi Arabia. And when it comes to the economic turnaround, I think that is something phenomenal, because our ratings have improved, our macroeconomic indicators have improved, there is stability which the world has acknowledged. The financial institutions the world over are praising Pakistan's performance in terms of the economic turnaround. So, right from default to development. And as I said before, from isolation to relevance. So these two slogans